Welcome to the Triple D Podcast, Donuts, Disability, and Discourse, where host Michael Liner talks to the best in the business about community, impact, business, and donuts. Here's your host, Michael Liner.
Welcome to another episode, or webisode, what are we, an episode or a webisode?
Yeah.
Of the Triple D Podcast, Disability, Donuts, and Discourse. I have a special guest, once again, because all my guests are special, Jordyn Paratore. Jordyn, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what your role is, and your background, because I get the pleasure of working with you every day. I know all about you, buddy.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. So I'm the client concierge at Liner Legal. I've been working with you for close to 3 years now.
Yeah.
Which I can't believe it's been that long. But, yeah, I get the pleasure of helping our clients every day, helping them get connected with resources within their community. Our clients are struggling with everyday things, other than, while we're working with their disability case, where I'm trying to help them with finding a food pantry and bill assistance programs and just ways that they can manage through this time. So I love my job. Every day is a little bit different.
And it's very different. Your job in our office is very different than what you were doing before. Yeah. And I think that it plays a key role in why you're the perfect person to do your job. But you were a clinical counselor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell us what that means. What does that do?
Yeah. So I have a master's in counseling. I'm licensed in Ohio. And before this, I was working in an inpatient psychiatric unit. And I was toying around with the idea of what else can I do? Because I was sort of entering burnout, I think, for me. It felt like a constant adrenaline rush, being in the hospital. And then prior to that, I had done community crisis work on a crisis team. And so it was a lot of adrenaline, a lot of, quick on-your-feet thinking, trying to help these, significantly mentally ill folks. And I was just thinking, what else can I do? I have this skill set that seems so narrow, but I don't know if I can do this long term. And so I saw your post on LinkedIn. That's how I found out the job. And I thought, well, I don't know what a law firm is going to want with me, but why not? I'm going to just see what he says. And I remember that the question on the application was like, what's your favorite ice cream? And like, what are your hobbies? And I thought, well,
should have been, what's your favorite donut?
I know.
I'm not asking people about their favorite flavor of ice cream, but
I just thought it was so fun, and it seemed like you had a totally different mindset than what I was used to working with.
Yeah. And
I thought, you know what, I'll give it a try. The worst he can say is no, that there's no place for a counselor at a law firm, but here I am.
And what made you decide to, you've kind of explained what you do, mm-hmm. but what made you go for it? And what excited you about the possibility of working at a law firm, which is so different?
I think that because it was a brand new role. I mean, I know that you had a vision for what you wanted in the role, but I kind of got to create how I kind of wanted and where I saw the need, I guess. So right off the bat, I don't know if I'm doing it right, but I just thought, well, this is where I see the clients are asking a lot about housing, a lot about food. Let's get in there and make connections with people in the community, because a lot of what I love to do is sort of market to these agencies, organizations in the community, so that I can give the client a good transition and say, look, I've got this great contact at the food bank. Tell them I sent you. They'll set you up with some food. So part of it is marketing us and marketing me and marketing this position. So I feel like I was able to kind of do whatever I wanted with it.
Yeah. And I remember those initial conversations that we had, and I was always like, well, here's kind of how I envision it, but your job is going to be to just figure it out.
Yeah. I'm glad that you gave me and you trusted me enough to do that, because I think that it would have gone in a totally different direction if it would have been kind of a rigid. Yeah. I mean, every day is different, and I mean that.
Tell us about that. I want to know some of your successes when you think about the last 3 years. And we haven't really talked about how 6 months ago was it or something, I asked you to take on an additional role in our office, which was to manage our growing staff in terms of the HR functions in the office.
Yeah.
But when you think about what you've done as a client concierge, what are the big wins when you tell people this is why it's cool or different to work there?
I have one story. You know the story, but it probably happened 2 years ago, but it still gives me chills when I think about it. So I had gotten invited to a domestic violence / elder rights roundtable. Yeah. So it was representatives from all over, all different backgrounds that are just trying to help this specific population. And I had gotten invited, and I thought, well, at that point, I was going to every meeting I was getting invited to because I wanted to be in the rooms to be able to market us, but to also meet people. And so I was going to every meeting possible. So I got invited, went to my first meeting. It was virtual, of course. And, I had just had an interaction from a client that had left Ohio due to a domestic violence situation and had gone to Indiana. I didn't know any resources in Indiana. At that point, we were just starting to take cases from out of Ohio. And so I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to help this poor lady that had the courage to leave this situation? I can't let her down. Yeah. So went to this meeting, first time there. These people probably thought I was nuts, but I said, you know what? If you guys can help me, here's the situation with this case. Funny enough, totally by chance, there was a woman there who had been from Indiana, knew all the domestic violence shelters, resources. She emailed me right after the meeting. That night, we had the client in a safe shelter. That night. I get chills just thinking about it because I was there at the exact right time, and it just all fell into place. That is my success story.
And it's funny how the success stories fit together because when I think about the people that we've really been able to help over time, and out of the thousands of clients we've had over the years, that particular client is one that comes to mind because at that point she had a bad judge and lost her case before, and we were helping her on with a new application for disability, and actually she just was awarded disability benefits.
Oh, that's really great to hear.
To just think about how we're able to find people when they're really in the trenches and down and struggling, and be the ones who fill their gaps and get them through the rough periods in their life. It really is kind of cool.
It's neat to think that was at the beginning of her journey with us.
Yeah.
And if we wouldn't have gotten her to that safe place, who knows where she would be right now.
Right. And, that's a great example, getting somebody into a domestic, out of a domestic situation, but you routinely are helping people find housing, and food stamps, and what are the biggest changes that you've seen, even from when you just think back 3 years ago and we started working together? I think it was 3 years ago this month. It was right before your wedding.
Yeah.
And you and Clay are celebrating 3 years this next month.
September. Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a lot of. That was another reason why I thought I was on the fence about getting a new job. I was getting married. It was
it's a great time to start.
Yeah, it was a lot happening all at once, but I just took the leap, and I'm glad that I did. But
you took 2 leaps at once.
Yeah.
Well, what are the things that you, when you think about, have changed?
I think that, maybe something that has become a little more difficult about this job is, because we're growing, we're getting clients from out of state and from remote areas too. I mean, I felt comfortable. I still feel comfortable with referrals within Cleveland because I feel like I know them pretty well. They're always going to change, but I know them pretty well. I'm comfortable when we have a client based in Cleveland. I think what's changed is my scope is reaching out of state, and so I'm having to learn the SNAP application for Michigan and for Florida, and every state has different guidelines for their Medicaid and for what their federal, the poverty level in that specific county is always different. And so I think that has been the biggest change. But I've still been able to have some success. I can tell you a story about that.
Yeah,
if you
please.
Want. Okay, so we have a client in a very, very remote area of Oklahoma right now.
Okay.
I hate not being able to give our clients some sort of resource after they talk with me. I mean, I want to give them a little glimpse of hope after talking with me. And I've been working with this guy, and I've had to tell him, I'm so sorry, there's just nothing in your area. He called me again this week. He's like, has anything changed? I thought, you know what, let me try again. So when I say remote, I called their city hall in this little town in Oklahoma just to be like, hey, do you have anything for this guy? She's like, ma'am, we have 200 people in our town. It's an intersection. There's no churches. It's literally not even a town.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, oh no. Okay, so I looked outside, the town next door, the town on the other side. In that time frame of when I had tried to help this guy before until now, they had developed a community action program, have this awesome representative that will travel to meet these clients and help them get on Medicaid, do the applications. I somehow connected with her. She's never in the office, but the day I called yesterday, she answered. So I'm still sometimes able to have success even when it's out of state, but it's just a little more challenging. And I would say that that's the biggest change.
And it just sounds like, and this is exactly why I knew that you were the right person for the role, because I don't think most people would have even picked up the phone to call City Hall.
I was desperate.
But to think about the fact that it's like nothing deters you. And that's kind of a story of how we got to, 10 years in business, which is you can't tell me no.
Yeah.
Because I'm just going to keep coming back until I get a yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to create the yeses or wait, for other circumstances to set in. But thank you for what you do for our clients.
Yeah, of course.
But, it makes total sense, though. I mean, just when you started, we weren't only in Cleveland, but we were definitely like a predominantly Northeast Ohio law firm.
Right.
And now I feel like that's probably half or less of our client base, just because it's grown so much. Are there, and I think that you're kind of helping us understand what the biggest challenges are, but where do you think that there needs to be the most change externally for our clients so that they can succeed and get what we're trying to help them with?
I think that, in a lot of these areas, there just aren't any organizations there to help. They're just not. They don't have the funding. They don't have the resources. And that sets the clients back. I mean, that's no fault of their own, unless they were to move, which, I mean, they don't need to do that. But I think that is what, just where they're located. If the resources just aren't there, they're just not available. We also have some clients that fall into the gap where, maybe they have some savings, they're barely getting by, but they make too much for Medicaid or like a heap to get their utility bills cut back. They're in that sweet spot, although it's not sweet, because they make too much, but they're barely getting by. So I those are a struggle to work with too. I guess there just aren't enough resources for people in that little gap. And we get those clients pretty often.
Now, you have this counseling background, and of course, what you're doing, day in and day out, it maybe borrows some of what you learned from your counseling background, but you're not providing counseling directly to our clients.
Right.
Is that a struggle for you?
It is. It is. It's mostly, I guess, a boundary setting that I need to think of, because I know I'm not the best person to be in that position to provide them with counseling. I would love to connect them with the counselor, but I almost view myself personally as more of a social worker rather than a counselor. At my last job, we were making sure that the clients were safe to discharge. So I was connecting them then with resources to make sure that they were okay to go home. So, making sure that they had transportation to get home, that they had a doctor's appointment to follow up on after we discharged them. So I sort of view myself as a social worker, that I want to get in there and problem solve with them. And so that carries over to this job, not so much as a counselor, I guess, because I don't feel like, I feel like I can still use my listening skills and, validating the client, but I don't feel like I need to counsel them.
Yeah.
I can problem solve with them, but I don't feel like, I guess it's not hard for me.
What can we do better? What can we improve on as an office when our goal is just to help people more? Where do you think we need to grow?
Gosh, I think we're doing a great job.
That's it. That can be an answer too. That can be an answer too.
I think that we really try to go above and beyond to keep the client in the loop with what we're doing, with as much communication with them as we can. They've got this extra service, me, to help also provide updates for them.
Yeah.
I think that we really do try to keep in contact with them as much, and that's really all they ask from us is just
tell us what's
they
going
want
on.
to know that everything's okay.
Yeah. Is that how most of your calls go with people?
I think that, I would say that when they call, our clients are coming to us at the most desperate point of their life. They have gotten an illness. They've had this certain diagnosis. They've gotten hurt. They're not able to work and provide for their family like they once were. And so I think by the time that I reach out to them, which is at the beginning, I'm probably one of the first people that they talk to.
Usually you are.
They're sort of retelling their story about how they became sick.
Yeah.
It's, I would say 90% of the time I never thought I'd be at this place.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be on food stamps. I don't want to be on food stamps, but I don't know what else to do. And so they're desperate. And so I think, when they come to me, I try and just sit with them in that moment and just try and validate that it's okay that you've asked for help. It's a big step of courage that you asked for help. And there are resources out there to help you in this moment. I mean, that's what these programs are designed for. And they just don't know about them because they had never had to do this before.
I want to think about that more, and probably a conversation that we can have without being recorded. But how do we let people know that it's okay that they've asked for help, and maybe people that haven't reached out to us yet, that it's okay to ask for help? Because I think you're exactly right. And when I'm doing my attorney welcome calls, that's part of like the process of being a new client in our office is after we get signed paperwork, an attorney will call the client and just to introduce our office and see if the client has any additional questions that weren't answered. And same thing. Usually what I hear over and over again is I never thought that I would need to reach out to you. I kept trying to work. I kept going to the doctor and thinking that they would have an answer that would fix my problem. But fortunately, it doesn't always work that way. And I think that one thing that we can really work on is letting people know it's okay.
It's okay.
We're here. We're your helping hands.
Right. And I think, too, that I've noticed, people feel like they're a burden to their family.
Yeah.
If they have family who has been supporting them financially, they feel like, I was normally the breadwinner. I never had to ask my mom for a loan, but now I'm in this position where I need help and I don't know where else to turn. And so I think we do try as an office to say it's okay. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what I really try and stress. And I don't even think that they're coming to me for like an answer. I think it's more of like validating that it's okay, and they can call me whenever they would like to. We can commiserate together about the unfairness of their illness and about Social Security and whatever it is. I do that with them. I try to. It's nothing really that I can say that will change their mind. It's mostly just they just need somebody to listen.
Yeah. I think that the vision, and we do a good job of it. I mean, in your role, it's so unique, and there's no description for it whatsoever. Your job is to just help people however they need to be helped.
Yeah.
But the moments where I feel best are in when we can make something unexpected happen for people. Because I think that when people pick up the phone and call you and they're calling with an issue with their utilities or whatever it is, they're asking for the help because we're offering it, but I don't know that they necessarily actually think that we're going to be able to accomplish anything for them. But like, you know, I also, and so it's so rewarding when we actually are able to help them, because it just changes how they view us. People view the legal profession as we're takers, but that's not our ethos. Our ethos is giving. And like, I remember a few weeks ago, there was that guy who, I told you, remember the story? I had a hearing with him, and he told the judge was like, do you have any hobbies? And he goes, well, the only hobby that I used to have was playing the guitar, but I had to sell my guitar in order to pay the rent. And so I told you to send the guy a guitar. And, you know, we can't send a guitar to every single client. But where that guy certainly wasn't expecting to one day open the mail and find a package that had something that he used to love back. It's not his guitar, it's a new one, but like, I want to find more ways that we can do that. And it doesn't always have to be a grand gesture. It's the sympathy cards that we send, where people, you forwarded me an email, or was it you or Rebecca, but somebody just forwarded me an email where it was just a client that was like, I'm shocked. I had 2 close deaths in my family recently, and 2 people from your office have called to express their condolences. You called. Nice. I don't even know if you knew that this happened. You called, and Rebecca Weathers, one of our paralegals, she called when she found out about it, and the client was like, this is just not what I expected from a law firm. And that should be our goal. Our goal should not be, you know, and I talk about this where I say I don't want to look left and right. I want to do the right thing. I don't want to do what other law firms are doing. I want to do what the right thing is to do for the people that we're helping. And just keep finding new ways to do that. But I am so grateful for the work that you do. I know our clients are so grateful for the work that you do. And I'm excited that as we grow, there's going to be more opportunity for you to help people. And I'm just happy that I have a partner in that. Thank you. So now comes the time that I don't know about you, but you've probably caught me just sneaking glances at this donut.
I can smell it.
For our listening or viewing audience, when I come to Jack Frost Donut here, which is probably the most awarded donut shop in Cleveland, just happens to be right down the street from our office. This is probably the donut that I get more than any else. Now, Jordyn did choose what we're going to sample today. This is the double German chocolate topped with additional chocolate icing on it. It's hard to imagine before we've bitten into it what could even be wrong with this, but you know there won't be. But we're going to do a cheers as we always do.
Okay,
let's have a bite. Wow. What I don't understand is how they're able to keep it so moist.
That is so good. I didn't even get the top part.
Oh, man, you need a bigger bite. You need a Michael-sized mouth. It is phenomenal.
So good.
See, they're coming to arrest them in here. It's so good.
It is so good.
Yeah. Well, this has been another great episode of the Triple D Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you, Jordyn, for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Triple D Podcast, Donuts, Disability, and Discourse. Rate, subscribe, and tune in next week for more discourse and donuts.